Today I want to share a story of learning the power to put your words together. Now, again, as I often open these podcasts, that might be an odd thing for me to say because I have two podcasts and talking about things seems fairly easy for me. And I would admit it is fairly easy for me. I can put things together fairly quickly and it's not that very difficult. But rewind just 4 years ago, I had no ability to do that. If anything, I was long-winded. I didn't have a lot of confidence. And the things that I did put together, I was always one word away putting my foot in my mouth and just digging a hole deeper. If you ask any of my colleagues, they would all tell you that Ben was known for a guy that would start off with a really good rant and then go too far and then put his foot in his mouth. Either say something wrong, say something insulting, whatever it may be. It was common. And in February of 2018 on LinkedIn randomly, I saw someone mention that they had just gotten back from a Toastmasters meeting. I was like, what is this Toastmasters thing? I've never heard of it. So I Google it and I'm like, oh, this looks like a really good organization. And if you're following the podcast, you probably know that what I said in my head was, well, that guy doesn't do that kind of stuff. Guess what I didn't do? I didn't go. I looked it up. I sent an email, but I got a kind of flaky response, and so I was like, whatever. And that was it. Until September of 2018. And at this point, I don't really know what changed in my life. I don't remember the exact, moment prior to leading up to it, let's go do this. But there was something about let's go try this again and see what happens. I was kind of like, I want to get more connected locally. Actually, that is the reason why I wanted to go back and do it, is locally, here in where I live, there was nobody that knew me. I was inexistent. I drove to work. I came home. Those are the only two buildings that really knew who I was within a 10, 20-mile radius. And I wanted to change that. So Toastmasters was that place where I was like, I'm going to go here and begin to change it. Now, what I learned through this process was I had no idea what this was going to do because I went there for visibility. Lo and behold, I would find a place to learn to communicate, learn to move different feelings around with just a few words, learn to catch my ums. If you've noticed in this podcast, I rarely say the word Now, sometimes I am a great editor and I catch those ums as I say them, pause, rewind, and go back and catch it. But most of the time, I am not editing on my because I don't say them. That is because in Toastmasters, if you've ever been to a Toastmasters meeting, umming is the first thing that you get docked for. And not docked, but there's people actually counting your ums or counting other filler words. Like how often do you say the word and? That's a common one. Or there's different words that people say and everyone has their own kind of niche. So it's not always but nevertheless, we're always looking for them. So back to the story. Toastmasters was this place that I really got connected to my voice. It really got me connected to who I was and where I was going. Now, if you remember, this was also about the time that I was getting ready to launch my podcast. So it's a whole new kind of world for me. And what I learned through Toastmasters was Toastmasters allowed me to get in touch with the version of myself in the future and do it 2 times a month. Now, the cost of Toastmasters is ridiculously cheap. It's like average $50, give or take, depending on some fees that each club might have. But $50 for 6 months of membership, and you get to go to clubs have 2 meetings a month. You get opportunities to speak. You get feedback on what you're saying. You get practice on organizing a meeting. You get practice on organizing and keep everything on time. You get practice on organizing an agenda. All of these things have led to me get better of where I am at. I'm recording this episode because tonight we had our first in-person meeting for the last 2 years, and it felt really good to just be connected and be in person again in this particular club because we've been doing it virtually for so long. And the idea of what I get in Toastmasters is connection to something that I can't feel anywhere else. I get to be connected to other people that are learning to use their words and figure out something inspiring from them. There was a lot of inspiring stories tonight, and they often all just touch me in different ways that allow me to see the world differently. They allow me to sometimes bring different tips here throughout the podcast. Different things that I say are littered with things from Toastmasters. So if you haven't ever looked at Toastmasters, look them up. They're all over the world. So no matter where you are listening to this, there is a Toastmasters club. It's kind of a random phenomenon that when I first found it, I'm like, really? They're everywhere? Yes, they are everywhere and in multiple languages. Headquartered out of Colorado. All of those things have helped Toastmasters become this global organization that helps people work on their words. So, with that said, rant over. But Toastmasters is where I began to use the power of my words to articulate something, to tell a story. And again, everything that I've been doing really started with Toastmasters. It was started before then, but Toastmasters started to give me the belief that I could go towards something. And then when I lost my job, I started running towards it. If you would like more information on Toastmasters, head on over to toastmasters.org. There's a simple button there to look up where your nearest club is, type your zip code in, boom, you'll get a list of all the clubs in your area. It is free to go visit the club as many times as you want before you become a member. So you can date each club to figure out which one is more aligned to your goals, who has the audience in those clubs that is really going to help you with where you want to go, and then decide. So guys, toastmasters.org, that is my rant. It is over. I'm back again with you guys tomorrow.